We are live.
Okay, so with that, we will start the June 3rd, 2021 Marquette City Board of Zoning Appeals meeting. We'll call the meeting to order. Start with a roll call. Andrea, if you could just take note of who's here. If I could get a motion to excuse everyone that is not here, because I think Andrea isn't missing anyone, so.
I move to excuse absent members.
A second.
We have a motion and a second to excuse our absence. All in favor, say aye, please.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? Okay, perfect. That carries unanimously. I hope you've all had a chance to take a peek at the minutes from our last meeting. If everyone has, and we're good with that, if we get a motion to approve those.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the minutes as presented.
Thank you, Justin.
You're welcome.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you, sir. We have a motion and support to approve the minutes. All in favor, say aye, please.
Aye.
Aye. Is anyone opposed? Perfect. We will move on. Additions and deletions from the agenda. I believe we do have an addition, and I'll let you hit that, Andrea.
Yep, I have a new business item to add for titled BZA meeting dates 2021.
Perfect. We will make sure we have that on there. Just don't let me forget it.
Alrighty.
Okay, let's go ahead and bring in our citizens wishing to address the board. We'll make sure that these guys just want to only talk on their hearings.
Okay, so we have 4 people in the waiting room right now.
Okay, perfect. It's quite a few.
Do we need a motion to accept the agenda?
Yeah, we do actually. Sorry about that, Brad. Let's get a motion to accept the addition of the agenda on there.
I'd like to make a motion to accept the agenda addition.
Let's go ahead and bring in our Perfect. Citizens wishing to address the board. We'll make sure that these guys just want to talk. All in,
Yeah, go ahead.
you're good. All in favor of approving the agenda with the addition, say aye, please.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Thank you. Thanks for that, Brad. Andrew, you're supposed to catch those. Okay, so we're going to get to our citizens wishing to address the board at this point.
So the phone number is no longer that we brought in is gone. It's not in the waiting room. The rest of the people are applicants.
Okay. Maybe it was probably just somebody calling in with their phone. Let's still bring them in just in case they want to have their 2 minutes. We should allow that.
Okay. I'm bringing in Jim Kelly, the applicant for the 340 East Ridge.
Hello, Mr. Kelly. We haven't gotten quite to your actual hearing yet, but we are at citizens wishing to address the board. You can have 2 minutes to talk now about anything you want. We just figure we would ask you, or you can just wait until your hearing. Oh, you're muted, sir. Hello, Mr. Kelly. We haven't gotten quite to your actual hearing yet, but we are at citizens wishing to address the board. You can have 2 minutes to talk now about anything you want. We just figured we would ask you, or you can just wait until your hearing.
Okay, can you guys hear me?
Oh, we can now. It looks like you're a little laggy.
Yeah, I just had some things going on. I'm just here to answer questions, and I have no comment during public comment.
Okay, perfect. We'll bring you back in a second. Hearing yet, but you're muted, Andrea.
The next is the applicant for the 238 Craig Street.
Yeah, Mr. Ellis, we're just citizens wishing to address the board at this point. Your hearing is coming up next. Just didn't know if there was anything else you wanted to talk about before we get to your hearing. Obviously, you'll get a chance to tell us about everything in a second, but.
Pretty much just whatever with the hearing should probably be sufficient. I do have my contractor, I think, is also in there, Sam Holcomb.
Sam, all right, I'll bring him in then. Do you just want me to bring him in? We can ask him and then keep them in for the, okay.
Yeah, we'll just leave them in and start. So we're going to go ahead and get to it then, because that is our first hearing. So we're going to get to our public hearings for the evening. Start out with 02 VAR-06-21, which is 238 Craig Street. Andrea, as you got everyone on, why don't you just give us some background on all of that?
Okay, on screen. The Board of Zoning Appeals is being asked to review an application for a 4-foot front yard encroachment variance adjacent to the Adams Street front property line and a 4-foot front yard encroachment variance adjacent to the Craig Street front property line from the City of Marquette Land Development Code to allow a 7-foot by 32-foot and 10-foot by 5-foot deck addition to the home with 3-foot by 2-foot steps and 4.5-foot by 6-foot steps located at 238 Craig Street. Attached to the agenda was the staff report, which is being shown on the screen. The variance application submitted by the applicant. The area map, the parcel is outlined in blue here. The block map, again, the parcel is outlined in blue. Here's Adams Street and here's Craig Street. Photos of the site. The location sketch submitted by the applicant. And I did receive one piece of correspondence. Oh, I'm sorry, I did receive 2 pieces of correspondence after the agenda was submitted. On Wednesday, June 2nd. Hi, my wife and I own the home across the street from 238 Craig Street. Keith Ellis has been a good neighbor and we're okay with the 2 variances he has requested. Lee Ballin and Donna Ballin at 239 Craig Street. And then on May 27th, dear Miss Landers, we are the next door neighbors of Mr. Keith Ellis. He's seeking a variance to add a deck to his home. We would like you to note that we have no objections to this variance. We feel it would be a nice addition to his home as the current staircase is crumbling. Thank you. John and Diane Becker at 232 Craig Street. And that's it for the additional correspondence.
Thank you, Andrea. Board members, do we have any questions for Andrea? Mr. Dunn, looks like you unmuted yourself. Do you have a question?
Yes,
for
I
Andrea?
did. Yeah, I'm just wondering what the distance is off of Adams. So from the street right of way to the porch or to the proposed deck.
From the curbing,
Yep.
it's about 15 feet. You're talking about like to the corner.
Yeah.
Let me share the screen and you're talking from this point here to this point here.
Yep.
Yeah, it's about 15 feet.
Okay. Good. I was just trying to get an idea of how far away from that. And is there any plans at this point by the city to have a sidewalk in there?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay. Okay, that's all I had. Thank you.
Yeah, Brad, go ahead.
Andrea, can you explain the stoplight or stop sign situation? There is is this a 2-way stop, correct, on Adams Street? Is that right?
Yeah, and let me pull up. All right,
No stops for traffic on Craig Street.
correct. None on Craig. It's gonna, I don't know if it's in the pictures or not. But
You can see the backside of one stop sign in one of the images.
so here's the stop sign off of Adams. Craig Street, they just go straight through. And then here would be the stop sign over here on the other side of Adams.
Mr. Chair, if I could.
Yeah.
The elevation of the deck is the same as the concrete stoop. Is that correct? On the Adams Street side and continuing that at a level elevation right around the house?
I believe so, but that might be a good question for the applicant if so. Okay,
That's all I
Sure,
have.
yeah. Yeah, before we get to the applicant, we'll first ask that question from Brad. Anyone else have any questions for Andrea? Andrea, just to point out, where the home sits right now, it's already very close or over our setbacks, right? It looks like the lot is a smaller lot, and it's looks like it's kind of really at the front of it as it sits.
yeah, I can show the visual too again. Hold on.
I think that'd be helpful for the board. We could see that.
So these dotted lines are the setbacks. And then the existing home is this line here. Can you guys see the hand on your end? Okay. And then right here is an existing concrete stoop and step. And then right here is an existing concrete stoop, and the steps that go here are, they're replacing them, but these are the existing footprints.
Excellent. Thank you, Andrea. I'll ask one more time after seeing that. Do any board members have any questions for Andrea after seeing that? Perfect. Then why don't we go ahead and get to our applicants. If you guys could please, we'll start off with you, Mr. Ellis, since it's your home. Why don't you go ahead and state your name and address for us and just give us a rundown on what you're looking to do here. And for free.
My name is Keith Ellis. I reside in 238 Craig Street. The main goal is the current stoops and railing is crumbling / rusting on both sides, and so the initial goal was to ultimately replace it, but in this case upgrade it and basically connect the two stoops into a small deck. And so mostly to me it's a matter of safety, but also improving the visual aesthetics of the house as well. So those are sort of the main goals here. Having a nice connected deck where you can put some flower boxes or things like that would be sort of the goal.
Excellent. And then we will get to board member questions for you guys right now. I'm going to start off with Brad's question just to try to tie that in. And Brad was asking before if Brad, if I get this wrong, please jump in. But if the deck is going to be the same height approximately as what the concrete stoops were, if you guys can answer that.
As far as I know, yeah, I believe, because the deck, it's connecting two doors at the same, level.
Okay. Does anyone else have other questions? Oh, go ahead, Brad. Sorry.
Well, and where I was getting at was just visibility from Craig Street, traffic coming up the hill with that deck extending out into the yard a little bit, just trying to, visualize what that might be like. Do we know from that corner of the deck what the height to grade is approximately?
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
This is my name is Sam. I'm with Cherry Creek Construction. We're the builder on the project should it go forward. I was just here to answer any questions, but I do know specifically at that corner we're at about 3 feet above grade. It slopes down a little bit further as you get to the Craig Street set of stairs by the garage, but slopes up pretty steeply. So at that corner where the deck would protrude into the toward the intersection, we'd be at about 3 feet above the existing grade.
Thank you. Board members, do we have any other questions for the applicants at this point? Okay, I'm going to take that as a no. With that, I'm going to open up a public hearing for 02 VAR 06-21. Andrea, do we have anyone in the waiting room at this point?
Just the applicant for the next case.
Perfect. We'll go ahead and close our public hearing. Board members, we get to comments and thoughts on this and which way you want to move. Yeah, Justin.
I'll just say that I pretty much concur with the written response. I think they satisfied A through J. When I look at these, he talks about the safety. I also look at, I've said it many times before, we're looking at accessibility into a home. If you got good accessibility, I think it encourages long-term home ownership, which is part of the comprehensive plan. Increases and enhances the housing stock. I think it's a win-win situation. He's in a tight spot as usual. You know, we're getting down to the traditional feet and inches. And like I said, I think he satisfies A through J for the most part. And I concur with his application. I can support his request.
Thank you, Justin.
You're welcome.
Barb.
I agree with Justin. Just looking at the house, and I went by it today, and I just don't see any reason why it would encroach in anybody's way. It really is already right next almost to the road anyways. Then it would look really a lot better.
Thank you, Barb. Yeah, Brad.
I guess this is maybe a question for the applicant. In terms of just getting a sense of scale, we see some mature trees there on Adams. The trees will stay. This deck will be inside of those trees, correct?
Yes, at least somewhat. There'll be a overhang probably.
Can you explain that? An overhang?
I mean, just the branches will be. Yeah.
Yeah. The trunk. Okay.
Yeah.
And then just confirming in your application, you show that the rail will be aluminum, right? This will be see-through.
Yes.
So traffic visibility at the corner of the property. Vehicles will be able to see through this approaching that intersection as it's proposed to be constructed.
Yes.
Is that correct?
Yes.
Through the railings?
Mhm.
Thank you.
Thank you, Brad. Board members, any other questions, comments, concerns?
Andrea, you did note that along Craig Street, the stairs would be in the exact same location, right? That's the application chose.
Correct.
Okay, that's my only question. That being the main road, that's probably would be my concern. If it extended out farther, that wouldn't be that great. But since, especially along Craig Street, it's pretty much the same boundary as the existing. And then on Adam Street, as everyone's kind of pointed out, I don't think it will affect any traffic vision, and it's within those mature trees. So I don't think it's going to impede on anyone else or affect anyone else. So I'm in favor.
Thank you, Christina. Well, at this point, I think I've heard from all of you except Mr. Dunn. He's muted because he's having some video troubles, but Mr. Dunn, do you have any comments?
Yeah, my main concern was kind of the vision triangle, and it, without doing a full study on it, just by looking at the site when I drove by and looking at the pictures, I think that the vision around the corner there is going to be just fine. That's my uneducated guess. So I'm inclined to be in favor.
Thank you, Mr. Dunn. Before we get to anything else too, I walk by that house all the time. I could tell you just, walking around the neighborhood, I can't see any sort of issues with vision or anything else. I think it's certainly an improvement that is one that, meets the standards that we look for as lined A through J. But with that, I will ask board member for action at this point. Can we get a motion? Seems like we're all in the same spot here. Barb, go ahead.
All right, I got my little trusty telephone so I can see what I'm supposed to say here. After conducting a public hearing and review of staff report analysis for O2 VAR 0621, the Board of Zoning Appeals finds that the request demonstrates the standards found in section 54.1404B5 A through J of the Land Development Code, and hereby approves 02 VAR 0621 as presented.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Barb, do you have any further comment on this?
I do not.
Okay, Justin, any further
No,
comments?
I don't.
Anyone else want to say anything else before we take the vote? Okay, so we have a motion to approve O2 VAR 0621. All in favor, say aye, please.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Is anyone opposed? No one is opposed. Carries unanimously. O2 VAR 06-21 is approved. So thank you both for joining us. You guys can leave unless you want to stay for the nenext hearing.
Thank
Thank
you.
you very much.
Thank you. Okay, let's get to 03-VAR-06-21. It looks like it's 340 East Ridge. Andrea,
Yep,
if you want to give us the background on that.
Okay, I'm bringing in the applicant, so they'll
Great.
be at real time with us too.
That sounds good.
Okay. Okay, 03 VAR 0621. The Board of Zoning Appeals is being asked to review an application for a 7.2% front area hard surface coverage variance from the City of Marquette Land Development Code to allow widening a driveway that will cover more than 30% of the front yard area with hard surface located at 340 East Ridge Street. Attached to the agenda was this memo and staff report that is being shown on the screen. Also provided the previous variance material for the case back in 2018. The variance application submitted by the applicant. The area map, the parcels outlined in blue. The block map, the parcels outlined in blue. Existing photos of the site. The survey submitted by the surveyor. And then, as I noted in my report, the new driveway calculation on here was the old number in the 2018. It wasn't updated to reflect the numbers that were provided in these attachments here. And then the July 5th, 2018 meeting minutes excerpt. And then I did receive one additional piece of correspondence. After the agenda was posted, received on June 1st. Regarding 03 VAR 0621, please visit the property ahead of the hearing to determine whether the appellants have laid their driveway stones in anticipation of being automatically approved ahead of the vote, which we witnessed on other projects, such as the quote private patio on our public Rosewood walkway. Please read the following comment at the June 3rd, 2021 meeting. 492 words. Thank you, F.J. Verito. Frank Jeff Verito, 350 East Ridge, Marquette. These are my opinions. 3 years after the appellants purchased their lot, the neighbors are still forced to behold the unfinished yard and, until recently, construction materials, heavy equipment, and debris that they have trouble containing on their property. They began their ownership by destroying the healthiest, most scenic section of the entire Lower Harbor Bluff. The eyesore they created for the sole benefit of themselves looms over Lower Harbor Park for all to see. They then destroyed and removed 3 sidewalk squares, forcing people in wheelchairs and other pedestrians to pass on the street for an entire warm season. From the time they took ownership, it's been all about the male owner to the detriment of our historic neighborhood. Over my 23 years of local land use involvement, we've seen residents who are hitched in have their ways with the city commission and subordinate boards. This mentality prevails recurrently, most notably along our lower harbor, which we've pretty much been relinquished to fulfill one architect's dream. The haphazard result is impossible to deny. This occurs when decisions are based on who's applying, not on what's best suited for that district, in consideration of adjacent land uses. This bears mention because work on the appellant's driveway may have proceeded ahead of the BZA's authorization. Members were asked in advance of tonight's hearing to observe the stones beside the driveway at 340 East Ridge Street, determine if they were laying in anticipation of automatic approval. In case you require an outhouse during your visit, the appellant's neighbor with the identical mentality, has placed an outhouse at the Ridge Street curb for your convenience. This is the umpteenth example of appellants taking over an area an inch at a time, then going for the extra mile. Destroy the bluff first, then let construction litter blow wherever, then build an oversized house, upsetting other people more than me, the size and the design, then appeal to the BZA to cover more than the allowable pervious terrain. The appellant's home takes up enough extra space that we needn't exaggerate the amount of impervious coverage with an oversized driveway. This may be okay in certain neighborhoods, but not in a historic, highly visible district where we've already experienced the impact of human greed. The male appellant is obviously hitched in with the city professionally and personally. Nothing would please him more than to hire his hitched in buddy to further deface our historic district with an oversized patch of cement. And that was the only piece of correspondence that I received.
Thank you, Andrea. Board members, do we have questions for Andrea? Barb?
Yes, Andrew, did they know that there was, that most of the homes had a single driveway before they built their home with the intention of having a double car driveway? It looks like there was some correspondence a few years ago when they were building it, that it was like that.
Correct. They would have known what it looked like when they bought it. There was a previous variance, but it was a lesser variance than what's being applied for now.
And is there a new curb cut? I couldn't tell.
There will be.
So the driveway will go the whole distance all the way out to the road?
Yeah, I'll show it on screen here. 1 second. So where the hand shown, this is the existing. This will be this is what they're proposing. See this extra
Sure.
here?
Okay,
Then the driveway has to come straight in, and then they can start widening per the ordinance when you're 2 feet past the sidewalk. So that's what they're gonna propose, that's what the proposal is, to start widening at that point. This line here to then come to that point here, and on this side, this line here, then to come to that point there.
and if they didn't ask for a variance, what would they be? They would just have what they have now?
You mean what would the biggest that they'd be allowed of a driveway to be? A straight driveway?
Yeah, without the variance, what would they be allowed to have?
They'd be allowed, at this point, what they're asking for. The 20 feet right here, they could have a 20 feet straight driveway in,
Okay,
or their proposal could show a driveway and widening, but that doesn't go over 30% of that front yard area in this area here.
and where's the 30%?
The 30% goes from the curb in towards the garage here. That's the front yard area. So
Okay.
in this area here where I'm showing the screen, they can't go over 30%. And that's what their variance is. They're asking for more than that.
And how much more?
They're asking for 7.2% more.
Okay.
Board members, other questions for Andrea?
Yes, if I might.
Yeah, Mr. Dunn.
Andrea, could you give me the history? What changed from 2018 till now that they need to have an addition? Did they just change their plans, or was there something that was missed in the first meeting?
They changed their plans, but if you want to know why, that would be a question for the applicant.
Okay, and then the other question I had for you was, are most of the lots there, the 100-foot frontage on the road along East Ridge there?
You know, without being able to look on GIS to tell you the exact measurements, but I can pull on screen. You know,
I'm trying to get an idea of like how, I mean, I think I read that 100 feet is the minimum width now.
Oh, for MFR, correct, yes.
Yeah.
But these are the existing widths of the, so they're all different, as you can kind of see here.
Right, okay, so there's a few of them that are, quite a few of them that are not conforming.
Right.
Okay. Okay, that's all I had.
I have one more question. How many variances have they had for this property?
The current owner applied for the variances that were attached in 2018.
So they were going wider with their home, or more closer towards the front of the, did they ask for variance for the front yard variance?
Let's look at that. So per the, here, I'll show it on screen, just so everyone knows that attached to the agenda were the excerpt of the meeting minutes. At the 2018, they were seeking a side yard variance, another side yard variance, and a 2% front area hard surface variance. And that was to allow for the attached garage addition, which did, and we can go back to the sketch, and the addition to the home, and then widening the driveway. So this was the existing garage at the time, and then this was the garage addition. Here.
They already went 14 feet beyond the original garage.
They received that variance back in 2018 for the side yard variance. They for the addition to the front, they met the front yard setback.
Okay. Does anyone else have questions? Andrew, if you could bring me back to the main screen, thank you. Yeah, Brad, go ahead.
Andrew, can you explain, I know the land development code has changed since the first variance in terms of impervious surface. So is it even possible to explain the different calculations in a logical way from the first impervious surface request to now? I mean,
okay, so I can say this. I had to, when I got the request, I had to make sure there weren't any new variance requests. Because like you said, the new land development code, now you have a maximum impervious surface for the lot. This proposal didn't go over that. But when it goes for the statement about the 30% of the front yard area, those are actually the same requirements that was in the previous zoning ordinance that is in this land development code. But as far as the numbers, so the previous variance request was for 2%. Maybe that might be the easiest. And now they're asking for a 7.2%. So they're asking for 5% more of what they previously asked for.
Well, that's kind of where I was going. Is it 9% more or is it 5% more?
It'd be 5.2% more.
Okay. One more question, if I could. Pervious surface, such as stone at the edge of the existing concrete slab, or pervious pavers would be permissible. That would not count as impervious surface according to the ordinance.
Well,
Correct?
and that stone wouldn't even be allowed, what's showing right now, that stone wouldn't even be allowed to be used as a parking area. Because
It
it's
would
not
not-
compacted gravel, it's just pea gravel.
Okay, so, but a different aggregate or a different method of installing that would be
Such as
sufficient for
pavers.
vehicle storage. Yeah, pervious pavers.
So it's, I'll just state that. Give me 1 second here to pull up the code.
Yeah, I guess what's required for vehicle storage that would satisfy that impervious surface standard.
Okay, so hold on screen. So the ordinance says provided when you're widening, provided the hard parking surface areas of the driveway or driveways and parking spaces utilized no more than 30% of the front area. And the definition of the hard parking surface can be impervious surface too. So they can have impervious pavers or compacted gravel and all that, but that area that they're using for the hard surface parking cannot exceed the 30%. So even if they went with impervious pavers or whatever, they still can't cover more than 3% of the front area.
That definitely clears that point up for me also. Any other questions for Andrea before we get to the applicant? Okay, I don't see anything. So Mr. Kelly, we're gonna go ahead and bring you in. If you could just state your name and address for the record here, and then just give us a rundown here of everything and what you're looking to do.
My name is James Kelly. I live at 340 East Ridge Street. And just a little bit of background. In 2018, my wife and I purchased the property in question, and there was an existing structure on the lot, and what we wanted to do was use the same footprint of the structure of the house and increase the size of the garage slightly towards the street. The 14 feet towards the street, which is still 50 feet from the sidewalk. So our front yard setback was not a question. We went to the Board of Zoning Appeals in July of 2018 and were approved for our 2 side yard setback variances, as well as our 2% increase in hard surface parking area in the front of the house. I have since been working on the project myself for the last 3 years almost, and it is time to put the driveway in. It's kind of our last thing to do and dress up the front yard. The 2% hard surface parking area in front of the house originally was before we started the project, and we were going to reuse the existing driveway, which at the time, well, still was straight on the east side and came out straight on the west side for 14 feet and then tapered towards the sidewalk about 4 feet. What we were going to do is just extend it on the east side so that it would be as wide as the garage in front of the house, taper down at the sidewalk, widen the curb cut a little bit, and we were approved for that. When I went to start to do it or design it, and kind of this part of the project is coming to fruition, I looked at it and well, for a while now, we've known that we were going to take out the existing driveway because ultimately the south end of it is higher than my garage floor now because of the way that everything is graded. So it's been a long plan to tear out the existing. Looking at that old variance, I I thought it'd be a lot more aesthetically pleasing than having it just taper on the west side and straight on the east side to have it symmetrical. The increase in square footage, I am not exactly sure how that was computed. I tried to contact Bob Combenzi, my engineer, before the meeting. But ultimately it starts at 27 feet, which is the width of my width of my garage, comes out and necks down to 20 feet at the sidewalk. Well, 2 feet inside the sidewalk and then straight, which was the same width at the garage, the same width at the sidewalk that was originally approved in 2018. I'm usually pretty good with numbers, and I don't know exactly where the additional 5% came in, but it is, in my mind, I mean, I'm going to order the same amount of concrete as I would have for that original driveway. But somehow the numbers changed between the way the engineer calculated them. So what I'm asking for is just to have it as wide as my garage at the garage, come out 30 feet, neck down to 20, and then the slight widening at the curb. The hard surface coverage I know is both an aesthetic thing, but also a stormwater runoff concern with all the hard surfaces within the city. And I don't know if it's any extra credit, but the structure, the whole house drains off to the east and west side of the house and backwards onto my own property. None of the runoff from the house actually ends up on the driveway. It's all gable ends on the north side. And, you know, I think that should be a consideration if you're worried or this 30% hard surface coverage is, you know, is part of the problem. And then also the width of the lot, you know, most of the houses on the south side of Ridge Street are 100 feet or bigger, and it wouldn't even be a concern if I had a normal size or a, you know, an approved size lot.
Okay. You guys have any questions for Mr. Kelly?
I have one.
Thank you, Barb. Go ahead.
Will you be parking in the garage or will you be parking on the driveway?
Both. We try to park in the garage as much as we can. But we usually do park in the garage, especially in the winter. But in the summer months, I guess it varies day to day.
Anyone else? Questions for the applicant? Mr. Dunn, I see you unmuted yourself.
Yes. Mr. Kelly, could you tell me the width of the driveway again, the proposed driveway right at the sidewalk? How wide is it going to be there?
The proposed width is 20 feet, which actually doesn't require a variance. I'm allowed 21 feet at the sidewalk, according to the width of my lot. And so we're going to neck it down to 20 at the sidewalk, and the variance I'm seeking is the hard surface percentage of my front yard. But yeah, 20 feet.
Yep. Yeah, I understand that we're talking about the percentage, but the reason I'm asking about the width there is I'm wondering if there's a width, you know, you're not going to be pulling in two vehicles at the same exact time, right? So I'm wondering if there's a way that could be narrower at the sidewalk, but then still get the width you need to have it, you know, have it as wide as the garage as you're coming in, to have it taper a little bit more.
That could potentially be possible. The way that it functions in the reality since we've been there is so from the garage to the sidewalk is 50 feet, and to get lined up and straight in front of your parking spot, and I personally happen to drive a rather large vehicle, to get lined up, you end up kind of swinging over to one side or the other, just so you're straight when you do get into the garage. And we feel that the 20 feet is necessary to not have to, if you got a little corner of grass there, I feel like it'd be driven over constantly. Just so you can get straightened out by the time you do get to the garage.
Sure. Okay. I'm just trying to think of any other ways that we might be able to trim down the overall area that's covered there and still address your needs. Because as I look at it with the plans the way they are, it seems like it's, you know, again, because of the lot width that you have there compared to the others, it you know, when you look at the Google images and the satellite images, it looks like the driveway is going to be taking up an awful lot of the front there. So I'm just trying to you know, come up with any other possibilities. So, but thank you for your input.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Yeah, Brad, go ahead.
Along those lines, so the extra width to the west, I suppose would help with what you're describing, Jim, in terms of squaring up to the drive. But I did hear you say that that's sort of in keeping with symmetry. That doesn't get rid of a lot of extra square footage. But those extensions to the west part of the driveway are maybe less important than the ones to the east, it seems to me. I mean, the extension to the east makes a lot of sense. I mean, your garage door is almost split with part concrete, part, you know, a soft surface right now. But is that a fair understanding of the situation, Jim? That the extension to the east is more critical as far as your function of the garage and of the property?
Yes, absolutely, Brad. The west side of the driveway, the west wall of the garage is exactly where the previous west wall was on the existing house. And their driveway or their garage was narrower. So the extension to the east, yeah, is obviously very, yeah, important, because currently it goes right through the middle of the door. So what we're asking for is to try to make it just feasible to get in and out of the driveway and get parked in front of either of the doors within 50 feet. My truck's 22 feet long. And it just takes some space, and I'm well aware that if we do shrink it down narrower at the sidewalk or come in sooner, I'll have a corner of grass that just gets driven over every day.
Justin, go ahead. Oh, you're muted, Justin. Still, Andrea, can you unmute him?
Okay, can you hear me?
We can now.
Yeah, I remember this case back a few years ago. I was just wondering, just to refresh my memory, how do you do your snow removal?
I use a snow blower, and I blow all the snow into the east of the driveway, and all of my snow is stored on my own property. And
okay. And then what kind of car does your wife drive?
She drives a Volvo XC90.
Okay.
So
all right. Okay.
A small sport utility.
Okay. All right. Okay. Okay. Thank you.
So.
Okay. You know, I do have myself, I have concerns and kind of a lot of questions with this. I mean, we have a 2018 variance request that was approved for this garage. And I'm kind of confused at how we have a difference in the amount of concrete at this point, and the applicant's not sure how the difference is there. And I mean, I guess, wish Bob Cambenzi was here to kind of explain where these numbers are varying and kind of what's going on. Andrea, can you shed any light on the number difference here and what is different?
No, I just took the numbers that Bob gave me that were the breakdown that we attached, and I added it all up and provided the percentage. I will state, I quickly did the math. When you're looking at the new driveway portion to the west that Brad was asking for, per Bob's thing, that was 74 square feet. That would make it a 1.6% difference. It would lower it, the variance request, down to 5.6%.
Board members, any other questions for the applicant before we move on?
I have a quick question. In your current condition along the existing side, the side that actually goes back to the garage, not into the doorway where your truck is parked in the photos, do you currently already drive over the grass when you're trying to back your truck in?
Mhm.
Guess that would be my big thing. And I also noticed, I looked at the survey. I don't know, maybe it could be possibly drawn incorrectly, because it looks like it comes out about the length of your truck before it turns. And this survey looks like it's showing the existing starting to angle back at the garage. Am I reading that right, Andrea?
No, that's at the setback line.
Okay.
But it's at the text that says garage addition, but there's
Okay, I see it. Yeah.
an
There's
arrow.
just a lot of stuff going on the drawing.
Mhm.
Any other questions for the applicant? Barb, go ahead.
Without a variance, if we didn't give you a variance, what were you planning on doing? Is there a plan in case you didn't get the variance? Because you're gonna get a new driveway anyways, right?
Pardon me?
You were gonna do a new driveway anyways?
Yes, I have to do a new driveway. I would go back to the drawing board and try to stay right at 30% and drive over my lawn for the rest of my life.
How much does your driveway take on now? How much of the percentage is your driveway now?
I did not compute that. Andrea, would you have that number for existing percentage?
You have to give me a time to calculate that.
I think the thing too to remember here, Barb, is in 2018, his variance request was approved for an increased percentage as well, right? For driveway, we were up to what?
It was approved for a 2% increase. So it was requested for a 32%.
Okay.
Would 2% be basically mirroring what's happening on the one side onto the side that has all gravel back to the garage?
Is that a question for me or Andrea?
So I'm doing the math here if you want to answer that.
Okay. Christina, so in 2018, the variance for the 2%, it was still 27 feet at the garage, coming out 30 feet, and then just the west side angling in, necking down to 20 feet. And that was the variance I received, and we went ahead and built with that. Rather than neck down entirely on the west side, from 27 to 20, which is 7 feet, I wanted to make it symmetrical, so it's next down 3.5 feet on each side. So ultimately, in my mind, I don't know, I apologize, and I know it sounds uneducated, but I don't know where the big difference came from, because if you draw that on a piece of paper, in my mind, it comes up with the exact same square footage. It's triangles, and it's just the way it is. So what I'm asking, I knew that I changed it from tapering on the west side and not the east to symmetrical, and that's kind of the only thing that I'm changing from my original variance in 2018. Other than that, I don't know. I hate saying I don't know, but I just don't know where that extra 4 or 5% came from.
Yeah, I could
I
say.
can answer the calculation now.
Okay, great.
For using Bob's calculations for the existing prior to the proposed, the existing is at 28%.
Okay. So the original proposal in 2018 would have added 4% to the original driveway.
Correct.
So, I mean, the thing that I struggle with myself, and other board members, please feel free to chime in, but we have plans for a garage in 2018 with a driveway that that you guys had proposed, and that was, and maybe I'm wrong about this, but it was set for this garage. And understand the plans have changed, and that happens for sure over time. But my question is especially without the engineer being here, I'm not understanding how we're going to be able to get to meeting the variance request when we have one that was specifically for this in 2018. It seems to me that if it was enough of a percentage in 2018, then asking for more now, I guess I'm a bit confused on what the need is. If it was okay in 2018, but maybe we can shed some light on that.
Yeah, I can.
Yeah.
So a couple of months ago, I contacted Andrea because I knew that I'd need the permit, even though I had the variance in 2018. And she informed, and I planned to go ahead with exactly how it was drawn in the original variance. And she informed me that my variance had expired.
Okay.
And that I would need another one. So no matter what, I was coming back to this meeting, even if I was going to propose exactly as it was proposed in 2018.
Okay.
My wife and I looked at it. We said, rather than taper all on one side, let's taper to the same and do it on both sides, make it symmetrical. And that's what we thought would be aesthetically and functionally more practical. And so I had Bob draw up the drawings. I thought we were just going to ship the entrance over so it was right in the center of the garage rather than skewed to one side. I didn't realize it was going to change the square footage. Again, I'm sorry, I don't know where that came from, but all we did was take the center of the entrance and move it over 3.5 feet to center it. And so I don't know how long a variance lasts or when you have to start, but yeah, and I knew I had to come back anyways.
Okay. Before we open a public hearing, board members, do we have any other questions for applicant? Yeah, Mr. Dunn, I think you unmuted again.
Yes, just one more. And, Mr. Kelly, this might be, you might not want to answer this, but I'm going to ask it anyway. If you needed, just in the thought of trying to get that percentage down a little bit, if we could only go back to one side tapering and one side kind of going straight out from the garage, which side would be better to be straight for you?
I don't think I can do either side straight all the way to the sidewalk and still stay under the 30%. But if I guess I don't have an answer for that. And honestly, it'd be more up to my wife.
Okay.
Than myself.
Do you normally park your truck on one side or the other?
I do. My side is normally the west side.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
So the driveway comes out 30 feet and then it starts tapering. What does the existing driveway come out before it tapers?
It's, I think 27 feet. So it's almost the same, but I don't know for sure. Past my truck, 25 to 30 feet.
Members, any other questions for the applicant?
I have one question, or I don't know if it's for the applicant. How big is the curb cut
Existing or proposed?
existing?
The existing is
18.5.
And the
And the-
proposed?
The proposed is 26 feet. And I checked with engineering, and the proposed curb cut would meet engineering guidelines.
Okay.
And that
So
would be,
basically, this comes down to if his lot was 100 feet wide, he would not be over the 30% probably. Andrea, do you know that?
I'd have to do the math on that if you,
Sorry.
no worry. Give me a second to figure out. All right.
Andrea, one more question while you're thinking about it. Are there any other homes on the south side of the street that have 27 foot curb cut?
I wouldn't know that. I wouldn't know what the
Like
existing
on the-
measurements would be.
On the aerial map, it looks like everybody has a single driveway and then Y's out into their garages.
402 has a wider drive, but I'm not sure what it is. If you look at the block map. .329 perhaps on the opposite side of the street.
If the numbers are right on the Google Maps, 440 looks like it's wider as well.
It does look like there's a few for sure. I think Christina's question is a very valid one, though, trying to determine that since the minimum standard in that district is 100 feet anyway, I would like to know where we would sit approximately with a 100-foot wide lot.
Okay, so what I can tell you, because the number that's provided, maybe I should put it on the screen, hold on. Okay, so the number I have is 48.1 feet to the garage from the front lot line. So there would still be this distance here, but I don't have that number. So just
Okay.
calculating an additional 25 feet to make this 100-foot width times the 48.1, and then calculate the proposed hard surface that is under 30%.
Okay.
That would put it at 29.6. But if I still had this distance, it'd be even lower.
Thank you, Andrea. Board members, any other questions for the applicant? Okay, thank you, Mr. Kelly. With that, we're going to open up a public hearing for 03-VAR-06-21. Andrea, do we have anyone in the waiting room wishing to speak on this?
There's no one.
Okay, I'll close the public hearing for that then. Board members, do we have any comments, questions, concerns, thoughts? Brad, go ahead.
Question for Andrea. Could you give us the allowance in terms of vehicle storage on that hard surface? Vehicles could be stored right up to the sidewalk. Is that true?
2 feet from the side. Here's the sidewalk. Here's the road. You can't park until you're 2 feet past this point. And that's the exact area where you can't start widening either. So that 2-foot strip, you still can't park. So the parking length, they would have, you said it was about 50 feet to the sidewalk, Tim?
Correct. From the
So-
front of the garage to the inside of the sidewalk, the house side, it's 50 foot 4 inches.
So you're looking at 48 long that is a parkable length. And then the width of a parking space at minimum is 9 feet. And then when we're calculating, it's 9 feet wide by 18 feet long. Say if this is a rental and I had to look at, if they have enough parking spaces.
Yeah, so 9 by 18 in a hard surface, 2 feet inside the sidewalk.
Correct.
Thanks.
Thank you, Brad. Anyone else, questions for Andrea, comments? Justin?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Can I have the survey sketch up, please? Can we have the whole survey sketch up? Okay, thank you. Looking at this, if you look at, I think what makes this kind of difficult, and it's very deceptive, is you look at the back part of his slope, he loses a big chunk of his property. And I just think he's he's trying to maximize his front yard, and all he's doing is, he wants to make it so he can drive in. I'm looking at sustainability. I'd rather see somebody drive over concrete than keep driving over grass. Nice, good cut in, meets the guidelines. He's trying to get into his garage. He's got a larger vehicle. I'm just looking at this. He's removing, I believe if you look at the survey sketch real close, he's removing the back porch at the same time. Some of this stuff I think is very deceptive. Slopes to me are deceptive. So I'm just kind of going, okay. So I'm understanding the spot here, and I'm just looking at it. I'm just kind of thinking, one way or the other, looking at practicality too. Something you might say, well, if you taper them down and you're driving over it, I'm wondering how practical that is. And I'm just going to come on and say, I can support his request as presented. When I look at it all together, sustainability, long-term home ownership, another person's going to come along, buy me similar situation, want to, 2 cars, maybe drive a larger vehicle. You see a lot of trucks on the roads nowadays as personal vehicles, they drive them like cars. So I think when it's all said and done, the land development code has put more restrictions on property, and the setbacks have not changed. And I think that's one of the areas we're running into here a little bit versus the traditional zoning ordinance when this was first brought up and approved, if I remember correctly. So thank you.
Thank you, Justin. Any other comments, guys?
Yeah, I'm a little stumped because I don't want to get into micromanaging someone's design and what they want to do with their own property. But at the same time, I'm a little bit worried with this much concrete right there at the front of the house, the ability to have 4 vehicles parked right there next to the sidewalk. It doesn't, if that was to occur, primarily the parking, I mean, if there was 4 cars parked there, that's not going to fit in with the historic nature of the neighborhood. So I'm a little bit torn. Again, I don't want to get into managing, but I'm wondering if it wouldn't be worth putting a condition about limiting the amount of, see, I don't know. I don't even know how you do that. If you were to limit the parking, well, okay, yeah, but what about, when he has guests over or something like that? Like that's kind of open up a big mess. So I'm not sure what to do. If anybody's got ideas, I'm all ears.
Thank you, Mr. Dunn. Yeah, Brad, go ahead.
So this is a multi-family residential district. That neighborhood has a lot of apartments. They look like single-family homes, yet, there are 6, 8 apartments in some of those large historic homes on Ridge Street. And some of them have a lot of off-street parking too. There is a lot of existing pavement. Now, those are non-conformities, right? They predated the standards currently and even the previous code. Yet, you know, I'm not sure in terms of character if it's a big change with the amount of pavement, given the amount of off-street parking there to begin with. I mean, if you go east half a block, you know, there's significant off-street parking that's not behind structures, you know, that is adjacent to structure. Now, granted, it's not necessarily in the front yard, but it's not totally screened necessarily either. So it's an interesting district in that it's mixed. I mean, it's traditionally single family, yet like a lot of the east side, we've got, you know, duplexes or even multifamily mixed in, and it works, right? It's a built form that's consistent with what's already there, as opposed to, you know, dropping in a apartment building that's not, you know, part of that single family built form. So I guess, you know, I think we do need to think about that too in terms of the character. It's not a single family street. It is a multifamily district, which necessarily comes with it more off-street parking. I do worry a little bit about impervious surface standards. But it is true, if this lot was conforming, as Andrea had calculated, it would satisfy the current regulations. So I guess that's all I've got queued up in my head right now. Thanks, Jeremy.
Yeah, thank you, Brad. You know, one thing I just kind of want to point out myself, I look at this, I see it both ways, as I think a lot of us are kind of pointing out. But one of the things I want to remind us as a board also of that it's our duty to ensure that we're allowing for, you know, the lowest standard of a variance requested, right? And one of the things that I'm finding hard about this is we allowed for a lesser variance that was actually, you know, granted in 2018. So we've already kind of set a standard ourselves for saying, well, this can be done with less than is being requested at this point. So I think that's one of the things we have to really, you know, kind of think about here is if in 2018, if the number was less and nothing has changed, are we, you know, are we changing the number for any good reason? I'm not really sure. That's just my thoughts. I mean, I think we could sit here and debate this thing for kind of a while. I think we all have, you know, good ideas about it and could kind of go any way on it. Anyone else want to make comments? I could ramble on. Go ahead, Barb.
I have one question. If we were not to give him the variance, and because he already ran out of his original variance, would he have to come back again with the original variance, or we at this time would be able to change it back to where he was?
So the city attorney years ago stated that you would be allowed to discuss a change in a request. So for this, it would be a lower percentage, like you could discuss that. You could increase it. And then you would have to make a motion that, you know, the amended plan would be reviewed by staff, not the board, unless the board wanted to see a lesser variance request at another meeting.
So his variance, right, the one he had in 2018 that is no longer
Valid.
was for 2%.
Correct.
So would we be able to change it to that 2% instead of the 7?
The city attorney said that you could, so in that memo, that's why we have that language of that second paragraph where you're saying any changes that you might propose. if they're reasonable changes, and you'd have to back up why you're asking it to change. But I would recommend that you also talk to the applicant about those changes if that's what the board is thinking.
Okay.
Thank you, Barb.
I
Yeah,
just
Christina.
kind of wanted a second, Jeremy. I kind of feel the same way too. If this lot was 100 feet wide, we wouldn't even be having this discussion. When I look at the overall site plan and I'm looking at all of the numbers on the side, like he's only 15% or almost 16% ground coverage. So he still has a lot of green space, which is great for, the environment, runoff, everything you can think of. But I am kind of stuck on, does this variance need to be that big? 2% worked in 2018. Why does it need to be so much more now? And that's where I guess I'm kind of stuck. Currently you'd have 2 cars in the garage. The driveway could probably fit at least 2, 3 more. So I guess that's just where I'm a little stuck.
Thank you, Christina. Brad, go ahead.
Andrew, can you give us the calculation on just the, what is it, just the east side expansion?
So
You said
removing her, let me just pull up this to make sure I want to know exactly what you're asking. So you're asking without this here proposed?
That's right.
So that is D and C, which is 34.1 and 74 square feet. All right. So that would equal 34.9%.
Sorry if I'm asking a question out of turn here, but was the original variance, that's where there's a discrepancy in numbers, right? So the original variance did not have that west side addition. It was just the east side, right?
I'll let Jim. To be honest, I can't remember the original variance request, but he would.
Something's got to be different with it though, because we were at 32 before, so we're at 34 now. So something else has changed.
The variance in 2018, the east side of the driveway was coming straight all the way to the sidewalk. It wasn't tapering at all. And the west side was tapering as existing. So yes, we are adding some to the west side, but we're also taking 3.5 feet of taper off the east side in our current proposal. And again, I guess I should have been more prepared to answer that question, because we're 20 feet at the sidewalk, we're 27 at the garage, we're tapering at 30 feet. It should be the same number. And not to, I mean, what it boils down to is 100 or 200 square feet of driveway that's going to make it usable to me for the rest of my life. This is my forever home. I've built this home for the last 3 years. I haven't taken a break. I haven't even slowed down. I own a construction company and I haven't even taken any other jobs. And, I just want it to be kind of the way I want it and useful. And I know that if I narrow it down less than what I'm proposing, it's going to be driving over grass or whatever I line the side of the driveway with. And I'm just asking for a couple hundred extra square feet of driveway in a conforming lot. It wouldn't even be an issue. I thank you for your consideration.
Mr. Dunn, you unmuted again.
Yep, so I just heard what I needed to hear from the applicant, and that was kind of addressing Mr. Ottaway, your concerns. He indicated that this is the minimum possible variance that he needs to use the property the way he wants to use it. And I think hearing that, I'm ready to support this.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Dunn. I will say, kind of echoing that a little bit, Mr. Kelly. I'm no fool. I know, you've lived in this property for a little while now as you're doing stuff. Things change, right? I mean, the variance request 2 years ago might have made sense then, but after living there, maybe it doesn't make sense now. And maybe that's why you want more now, because you need it. I think Michael really points out some good things, and that was kind of my biggest concern with this. And I think you answering that question kind of pushes me in the same direction as Mr. Dunn. Christina, any comments? You and I were kind of thinking alike, so that's why I kind of.
I kind of feel the same way. I understand, big trucks backing up in the driveway. We have that issue at my house as well, so I fully understand that. I do feel like I can support this. I'm still a little concerned on the size it is. I looked at the thing, it's 400 square feet more, which doesn't seem like a lot, but that's a 20 by 20 area, the size of a garage if you had a perfect square. But I feel like since you are going to be here for the rest of your life, and it seems, from what you've said, it's what you need to function. I mean, I could support it. And if this was a conforming lot, like I said, we wouldn't be here.
I do agree. It's hard to always play that game though, right? I mean, we have to play with the cards we're dealt with.
Yeah.
That's kind of the fun of all of this. And Marquette is filled with non-conforming lots, and we get these variant requests every month. So each one of them has its own set of problems. That being said, we have kind of discussed this quite a bit. Is anyone ready to make a motion, or do we want further comment? Where are we at with this?
Let's make a motion.
Go ahead, Justin.
I don't have it before me, so.
I can put it on the screen if you want. One.
Yeah, that'd be great.
I'll try and read it then.
Okay.
Okay. Bear with me here for a second. Okay, here we go. After conducting a public hearing and review of staff report analysis for 03-VAR-06-21, the Board of Zoning Appeals finds that the request demonstrates the standards found in section 54.1404B5 A through E, or A through J of the Land Development Code, and hereby approves 03-VAR-06-21 as presented.
Thank you, Justin. We have a motion for approval. Do we have support?
I'll second.
Okay. Justin or Mr. Dunn, do you guys have further comment on this, or do you think you said enough at this point?
I've said enough.
Okay. Mr. Dunn's still muted, so I'm assuming he's good too. Anyone else want to say anything else before we vote? Okay. We do have a motion and support on the floor for approving 03-VAR-06-21. All in favor, say aye, please.
Aye.
Aye. Is anyone opposed?
Me, no.
Barb is opposed. Motion carries, I believe 5-1. The variance request has been granted. Mr. Kelly, thank you for your time. Thanks for answering all of our questions. You're totally free to go now.
Thank you all for all that you guys do for the city.
Thank you. Okay. Thank you guys for getting through that. That was a lot of good questions. So unfinished business, we don't have any tonight. We do have new business though. We just have to, I believe, addend and approve our meeting dates, correct?
Correct. I will share that on the screen. The following meetings that we have left are the July through December. We are no longer going to be using Zoom for our board meeting starting July 1st, which happens to be our very first meeting in July. So now that we are meeting in person, we have to, or the board needs to decide of reviewing this and approving these meeting dates for the location of the commission chambers of City Hall at 7 p.m. because our previous one stated about the Zoom meetings.
Okay, everyone has had a chance to take a peek at those. Can we get a motion to approve the new meeting dates and place of location?
New meeting dates.
We do have a motion and support. All in favor, say aye, please.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Is anyone opposed? All right, thank you so much. That carries unanimously. Andrea, do we have any citizens wishing to address the board at this point?
There's no one in the waiting room. Who was the support? I didn't hear.
The support, who supported that? Was that Barb? Brad? Barb,
Okay.
Thank you. You're expecting me to watch this? Come on. No citizens wishing to address the board. Board member comments. Christina, we'll start with you because I'm looking at you.
Maybe no comments.
Justin?
I've said enough.
Okay. Brad?
No, thanks.
Okay. Barb?
Oh, I just had a question for Andrea. The other night at the planning commission, there was a lady with a fence that she couldn't put the fence up or had to take it down or something. Why wasn't she going to the zoning board instead of the planning commission?
There wasn't a lady with the fence at the planning commission.
Yeah, it was the, it's in a PUD. And so
Oh, you're talking about the planned unit
Yeah.
development. I thought, yeah. So
I actually had the
planned
same
unit-
question.
Yeah, as I explained at the meeting for the planning commissioners, a planned unit development isn't like regular zoning. So it's what you see is what you get. They apply for the planned unit development. All of the development information is through that planned unit development. If they want to change anything, they have to, it's called a PUD amendment. So per their planned unit development, they are supposed to meet our fence guidelines. If they don't want to meet the guidelines, they have to go through an amendment process, which is why she's going through the PUD amendment process, which is a planning commission and city commission thing for a major amendment.
Okay, all right. I was just, my daughter was was listening to the meeting and so that I got on it because it concerned her. And then I noticed this fence thing and I couldn't understand why she wasn't doing the zoning thing instead of the planning commission. Okay.
Thank you, Barb. Mr. Dunn, anything?
Yeah, I've got a question for Andrea as well, that this driveway made me think about. But when we're in the process of drafting the standards in the land use code, do we base a lot of those decisions when we're coming up with actual numbers for minimums and maximums and things like that? Do we base a lot of those calculations on the minimum lot size?
So the 30%, it was a requirement from ages ago that still carried on. I don't know how they base that because the 30% is for for all in the single family homes, basically, for your front yards.
Okay, maybe, yeah, I guess maybe Brad would know this too, but I'm like, when we're drafting the code, I guess what I'm getting at is not necessarily where this specific number came from, but in general, like if people are basing their assumptions like, okay, yeah, 30% is gonna be big enough because the minimum, lot width is 100 feet. And so I'm wondering if when we're drafting the code, if we're assuming that most lots are going to be conforming.
But I can't tell you what they assumed back then. It's been a requirement for a long time. It could have been a requirement prior to, the zoning ordinance, the lot widths have been minimized
Yeah,
compared to what they used to be 70 feet. Now they're allowed to be 36 feet, 36.5. But the 30%, I think, was the aesthetic number, and maybe also with the impervious surface, that they didn't want to see more of that in the front yard, no matter what the lot width was.
okay. Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Well, thank you, Mr. Dunn. Oh, Brad, you were to talk, sorry.
Well, I guess, trying to help answer that, I think, Mike, there's, a challenge between kind of in the code, trying to find the ideal, but then working with what's the existing, built environment, what's the current, fabric of the neighborhood. We saw that pre-land development code, right, where the city had minimum lot sizes and widths that were for a different density, different kind of style of development, more of a suburban character, yet the east side is not that at all. And so it just didn't fit. So by reducing those standards down to closer to what is the current built environment, you're minimizing the number of non-conformities. Yet for a standard like this one that has, some aesthetic and environmental purpose to it, you still might want to, be a little bit optimistic or push the envelope a little bit in terms of, trying to achieve that ideal. Yet the realistic nature of the built environment is going to be constraining, to some degree. So I think it's a push and pull. There's no perfect, elegant solution, just trying to accommodate both those competing challenges or factors.
Yeah, thank you for that. My thought is I'm wondering how much sort of leeway, just in my mind, I should have when you do have a non-conforming lot and you've got standards that are made with a conforming lot in mind. It's just, I'm wondering how much cushion we should be allowing for when there's a situation like this. Anyway,
could you possibly do like an exception, like if you have a non-conforming, for every percentage of width under, you can increase your allowed area by so much? Like, I mean, you could hypothetically put that kind of stuff into the zoning.
Yeah. Or even if I was good enough with math, I could do that on the fly when we run into these.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you all.
Well, thank you guys. With that, I guess we'll adjourn. It was a great discussion tonight. So you have a good time, and we'll see you in person in July.
Yeah. See you guys.
Bye, guys.
Thank you guys.